the majority of his solo piano works, which are extremely important in piano literature. So Schumann's works are very personal. No one had a greater imagination than Robert Schumann as far as just the creative things that he came up with. And one of the techniques that he would use would be to derive themes from the names of his friends, or like the name of a town that a friend would live in, that he would assign musical pitches to letters. And that technique is described with this Italian term soggetto cavato, which means carved subject. And this is something that had existed in the Renaissance, so it wasn't something that he invented, but it made his music have these special meanings and these special messages. And so Robert Schumann was especially fond of writing character pieces. Character pieces are short, lyrical keyboard works. Very often they would have programmatic titles, so Schumann used that. He usually would ascribe some kind of title that indicated what that little picture was intended to depict. So particularly these refer to little short piano pieces. They're often titled and the idea was not motivic thematic development. So it had to do more with just creating a mood picture, just creating an atmosphere. And focusing on that aspect, the emotional expression of this mood, rather than upon the way that themes were manipulated. So, concerned with presentation of the mood. So what Robert Schumann would do then would be to compose this group of character pieces that he would then group together, and they would tell a story. You know, they would have some type of idea that they would be expressing, and so it would be things like, you know, you'd have 13 character pieces that he entitled Scenes from Childhood. And so each one of the particular movements then has its own programmatic title. So Night of the Rocking Horse, or Blind Man's Bluff, or Child Falling Asleep. And so, some of his most famous works for solo piano are these collections of character pieces. One of which is his epic work, Carnival, And so Carnival is a collection of character pieces that are based on a theme that represents the hometown of his girlfriend before Clara. Her name was Ernestine von Fricken, and she was from Asch, Germany, A-S-C-H, and that translated into musical pitches. He rearranged those tones to represent his name, S-C-H-A, which represented Robert Schumann. And this theme would then occur in various guises throughout this cycle. And this particular work, Carnival, depicted a party. And so, you know, it's associated with Mardi Gras, you know, so that the week that precedes Lent. And then you have all these characters that show up at this masked ball. And so you have, you know, Frederick Chopin, you have Ernestine, you have Clara makes an appearance, Paganini makes an appearance. And so it's this kind of imaginative storytelling that Schumann was really attracted to. And so the literary element is a very important aspect of Robert Schumann's works. So he founded this music magazine in 1833. He was the editor of it for 10 years, and then he sold it. He had, you know, various posts. Toward the end of his life, he was in Dusseldorf. He was hired as a conductor. He really wasn't successful as a conductor. But he turned his attention to art song in 1840. He then wrote works for symphony in 1841, so he wrote 4 symphonies in total. And they were all started in 1841. And then he had a phase where he was interested in writing chamber music and then choral works, so it's like he would just kind of go through one, you know, genre that he would devote himself to. So So he stands at the very, you know, front of this first generation of Romantic composers. The work that we're going to listen to is from 1840, from that year of the song, and it is one of the most popular and well-known of the song cycles. So it's a collection of 16 songs. So it's not as long as the Schubert's Winterreise. It takes about 30 minutes to perform the song cycle. It is from a collection of poetry by Heinrich Heine that Heine published as Lyrical Intermezzi. So an intermezzo was a type of work that became popular musically in the Romantic period. Brahms especially was attracted to this type of character piece. And intermezzo originally was music that was interlude music that would be played like within you know, a play, a presentation of a play, and you'd have between acts that there would be an intermezzo. And then in the 19th century, it's just used as a general type of term that describes a character piece, so something that's like a musical moment. And so this wasn't a set of 16 poems that Heine wrote that was called Dichterliebe, but these were poems that Schumann selected. And so they loosely kind of present the story. And again, it has to do with brokenheartedness. And the first 6 are describing falling in love and you know, his devotion to her, and the description of his love and of her beauty. In the 7th song, then you realize that things have fallen apart, and that he realizes how utterly wretched she is because he's had this dream, and he can look into her heart and see the serpent that is eating her heart. So that's pretty strong. So we're going to listen to the first one, which is In the Beautiful Month of May. And then we're going to listen to number 7, which is entitled I Bear No Grudge. So he's saying this, you know, sarcastically through clenched teeth. Then the rest of the song cycle, so 7 through 16, then are expressing then these different scenes of pain and of sorrow and of situations that represent, you know, what he's going through in this broken relationship. So, So we're going to look at number 1, number 7, number 12. All of these are in modified strophic form, so that's the form for these. So the poet is Heine, 1840 is the year. Modified strophic for these 3 songs. One of the things that Schumann liked to do in his sonata cycle works would be to bring back themes. So he used a lot of times cyclic constructions. So you'll find that in symphonies, in his famous A minor piano concerto. And so that's what is going to happen. The postlude of number 12 returns at the end of the whole set of number 16. So there's a cyclic element there. And number 16 is through composed. So the end of the set, so the end of number 16, features a return of the postlude from number 12, so both of those end with a solo piano passage. And the way that it shifts from the key of C sharp minor at the beginning of number 16 to then D flat major gives this sense of optimism. Also the way that the poem reads. Basically, the poet has decided that we've got to gather these 12 giants and this huge casket and this huge plank to put the casket on, so the 12 giants can take it out to the sea and bury it in the sea, because what's contained within this coffin is so large, it requires that large of a grave. And what then he reveals at the very end is that he's put all of his grief and all of his pain in this casket, and he's going to bury it. And so you get the feeling that when it's just D flat major and that's the end of the singer's part, then that there's a sense of optimism that he's going to be able to move on. And so it ends with that feeling of hope at the end. But this is a really good example of Schumann's style. So I want to point out a few things in this score. Okay, so one thing that you see at the beginning is that Schumann writes for the pianist. He just writes the word pedal, but he doesn't give specific indications as far as where you depress or where you lift the dampened pedal, but just telling you just general that you use the pedal. Also, if you look at the bottom of the page, you see that Schumann writes the word retard. And if you turn over to the second page, you'll see that he doesn't write a tempo. So he doesn't tell you how long the retard lasts, but it's more kind of general directions. And at the end of this alternates between this very reflective, this is a typical kind of Eusebius kind of mood, where you have this kind of nostalgic, he's thinking back when he first fell in love with her. It was a beautiful month of May when all the buds were bursting, all the birds were singing, and then he also expressed his love. So it alternates between F sharp minor and A major. So the opening piano prelude is in F sharp minor. When the singer comes in, then it shifts to A major. It's very beautiful the way that you have this kind of ambiguity between those keys. So this first page is the first strophe, the first verse, and then the second page is the second strophe. So there are two strophes in this opening song. It's very brief. It takes a minute maybe to sing. And at the bottom of the first page, so at the end of the first strophe, the singer gets up to the highest pitch, to that G natural, and then the piano finishes the phrase, going on up to a G sharp. And it then brings back the opening prelude material for an interlude between the strophes. So that's one thing that Schumann would do, is he would weave together the vocal part and the piano part. And a lot of times you'll have that overlapping of, the voice will start a phrase, the piano will finish the phrase. And at the end of this first song, it ends on a 5-7 harmony in the key of F sharp minor. So it ends with a C sharp 7 chord. And you see the word attacca, so that indicates that you're immediately to begin the second song. And so this is intended to be sung as one big work. And so you wouldn't really just sing this first song by itself. And so these opening songs are all short Let me read to you the text